A 2026 clinical trial out of Kyoto University just changed the conversation around visceral fat elimination in a way that should fundamentally shift how you think about the toxic fat accumulating around your organs. The protocol that generated the most attention involved participants over 65 experiencing dramatic reductions in deep visceral fat stores, not through calorie restriction, not through pharmaceutical intervention, but through a targeted biological process called fat browning. And the mechanism behind it is one of the most exciting developments in metabolic science this year. To understand why fat browning matters so profoundly, you first need to understand why visceral fat is so uniquely stubborn compared to the subcutaneous fat you can pinch beneath your skin. Visceral fat surrounds your internal organs, your liver, kidneys, intestines, and heart. It is metabolically active in the worst possible way, producing inflammatory compounds, disrupting hormone signaling, and contributing directly to insulin resistance, cardiovascular stress, and accelerated organ aging. And unlike subcutaneous fat, which responds relatively readily to caloric deficit, visceral fat is protected by a specific biological characteristic that makes conventional dieting almost useless against it. White fat cells, the cells that make up the vast majority of visceral fat stores, have extremely low mitochondrial density. They are storage units, not furnaces. They accumulate lipids efficiently but burn them reluctantly. When you create a caloric deficit, your body preferentially burns more accessible energy sources before reluctantly mobilizing visceral fat stores. The fat around your organs is essentially the last reserve your body wants to touch, and getting to it through restriction alone requires levels of caloric deficit that are neither sustainable nor healthy for most people. Brown adipose tissue works completely differently. Brown fat cells are densely packed with iron-rich mitochondria, some of the highest mitochondrial concentrations found anywhere in the human body. Those mitochondria are specialized for thermogenesis, a process that uncouples the normal energy production pathway to generate heat instead of ATP. Brown fat does not store energy efficiently. It burns it continuously, as a primary function of its cellular architecture. The Kyoto University research demonstrated that this fundamental difference is not fixed. White fat cells can be induced to undergo a transformation called browning, a process in which they begin growing new dense mitochondria that shift their metabolic function from storage toward thermogenic fat burning. The protocol triggering this browning process in the study participants targeted the PGC1-alpha pathway, the same master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis that determines how many mitochondria a cell contains and how efficiently they operate. When the PGC1-alpha pathway is activated in white fat cells, the transformation is measurable and significant. The cells begin incorporating new mitochondria. Their metabolic profile shifts toward fat oxidation. Thermogenic activity increases. And the visceral fat stores that those cells were maintaining begin to be mobilized and burned as the cellular machinery transitions from storage mode to active thermogenic mode. The study participants experienced what researchers called strange metabolic signals during this transition. Increased nighttime body heat as thermogenesis activated, reduced appetite as fat mobilization provided cellular fuel, and dramatic improvements in morning cognitive clarity as the inflammatory burden of visceral fat began declining. The barrier that prevents most people from accessing this browning process on their own is exactly what you would expect. The PGC1-alpha pathway requires specific molecular signals to activate, and those signals depend on the cellular energy environment. Cells that are metabolically depleted, mitochondrially underpowered, or operating under chronic oxidative stress cannot complete the browning transformation even when the right dietary or environmental signals are present. The browning instruction arrives. The cellular machinery to execute it was never built. PQQ is one of the only compounds scientifically demonstrated to directly activate the PGC1-alpha pathway and trigger mitochondrial biogenesis in adipose tissue. When PQQ activates this pathway in white fat cells, it initiates the construction of new iron-rich mitochondria, the exact cellular machinery the Kyoto University protocol identified as the mechanism behind visceral fat browning. New mitochondria in white fat cells mean new thermogenic capacity. New thermogenic capacity means visceral fat begins burning from the inside out rather than sitting inertly around your organs. CoQ10 fuels those newly constructed mitochondria through the uncoupling protein pathway that drives thermogenesis, maintaining the heat-generating fat-burning activity continuously as part of the body's daily repair cycle. The combination creates the sustained thermogenic environment that the Kyoto Protocol demonstrated is required for meaningful visceral fat reduction in the stubborn stores conventional dieting cannot reach. Mitolyn combines PQQ and CoQ10 in one formula built specifically around this fat browning principle. Stop starving and start building the mitochondrial machinery that transforms your fat storage cells into active calorie-burning furnaces from the inside out. I want to be fully transparent with you. The link in my description is an affiliate link. I might earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. I only share what I genuinely think is helpful. Stop starving and start browning. Check the link in my description for the 2026 Mitolyn Visceral Reset Protocol. This video is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet or lifestyle.